If that black man is a predator and my addressing his predatory behavior will save children, I will always listen to what it is that I'm saying. I will always choose the children. Hear me and hear me good. Act like we have never gotten tricked. I've been tricked. This is what I'm saying. We do the young people a disservice, absolving the grown-ass man who preyed on that innocence. Listen, this is how it happens. Hello, knockouts. Tonya TKO here, and I'm a self-love specialist and certified clinical hypnotherapist from TonyaTko.com. I help you learn how to love yourself and each other. On this channel, we use viral video topics as teachable moments for dating, relationships, and self-love in our own lives. And yesterday, I wanted to drop this expose leaked audio that had gotten into my hands. But when I went to go make the video, I just didn't feel right. Something just, you know how you get this feeling inside of you and you can't budge. So you're like, I want to do this, but you just can't budge yourself to do it because there's a bigger conversation that needs to be had right now. And I feel like I would be remiss if we didn't have this conversation right now before I publish another video about any other topic, especially R. Kelly assault and whether or not we love or hate the black man and the protection of black girls. And I feel like we need to pause for a moment and the adults need to come together and have a conversation. Because not only am I a vlogger that talks about, these viral topics, I am also an educator. So let's talk. Let's talk. Now, this conversation is intended for people who are 30 and above. You are the ones that I consider adult. And I want us to to have this conversation and attempt to get on the same page. And if after this conversation we can't get on the same page, then we're going to have to part ways. We're going to have to part ways because there's so many of us who are being disingenuous. And when we are disingenuous, we do the young people a disservice because instead of teaching them, we blame them and we allow predators to go scot-free. Now, I'm not just talking about R. Kelly. I'm talking about in our neighborhoods, with that whole sentiment, oh, you hate the black man if you speak up about something that a black male person happens to be doing to victimize other people or the neighborhood. It's high time. Listen, there are far too many of us who are being quiet about the melee that's being caused in many of our communities. Much of it, statistically speaking, much of it at the hands of males. And in the black community, those males just happen to be black. And there's so many of us who are quiet about these things the black man is already so beleaguered. He's already so beleaguered. He's been through so much. Imagine going through all of that in a female body with a womb used to procreate an agenda. Smaller, weaker, and the vessel of human life. So it's like we spend all of this time talking about what the poor black man has gone through, ignoring and actually allowing the further victimization of young black girls. And I'm going to say this early in the video, right? I'm going to say this early in the video so that you can hear and understand my stance. So there's so many of us who are like, where you taking down, you're tearing down the black man. If that black man is a predator and my addressing his predatory behavior will save children, I will always listen to what it is that I'm saying. I will always choose the children. Hear me and hear me good. I will choose the children because there's so many of you out there who are like, you don't like. So much so that we allow rampant drug selling. gunfire and murder, on the damn street sexual harassment, the plundering of our children from the community at the hands of pedophiles. Listen, we're not talking about realistic numbers here. 40%. Listen, 40%. As much as 40% of Black females in the Black community here in America will be a victim of molestation or sexual assault in her life. 40%. Some people are saying the number could be higher than that. If you just look in your own circle of friends, if you just look at the people who are around you, and if you talk, just talk. Ask questions. See, this is what I'm saying. We do a disservice to the children when we don't teach, but we instead pretend as if this is something that they should already know. Talk to your friends. In my circle of friends, as much as 70% of the people that I know, and them to male and female, listen to what Mia say, because this just doesn't affect Black girls only. You think boys ain't out there getting raped? You think men ain't out there getting drunk and then they wake up and somebody, a male person, is sucking on their penis or doing whatever to them? You think it's not happening to them? They may not talk about it. And part of the reason that stops people from talking about it is adults like you and me. Listen to what it is that I'm saying. Adults like you and me who blame the victim. Oh, she was 19. She should have known better. Really? You know what? And it's this sentiment. You know what? We're going to get into it because I wrote notes, and I want to make sure that I say everything inside of this video, right? So it's like, far too many of us blamed ourselves for our molestation and our assault. Oh, I was 7. Maybe my little budding body was just too much. Oh, it was just too much temptation. Oh, maybe maybe I shouldn't have been drinking. Maybe I should have made sure that I went out with a posse. Oh, maybe I should have been armed. Maybe I should have fought harder. Oh. Maybe I should. Meanwhile, absolving the predator of his predatory behavior. Absolving the predator of her predatory behavior. Because so many of us out there have internalized the blame for our own assault. Because listen, statistically speaking, it does not make sense for as many of you to be inside of my comments and all my videos talking about it was the girl's fault. There are far too many of you commenting that, you know why? I know, because listen, the number 40%, that's on record. So we have some people out there who they themselves have been raped and sexually assaulted, who are coming to the comments to come forward to blame these victims. Why? Because you blamed yourself. And then the pattern continues. Oh, she was 19. She should have known better. She should have known better. A regular 19-year-old and a 48-year-old man, she's not going to be able to mentally compute at the level that he can. And if she can, then he'll find somebody else who can't. Listen, I've seen people, you know what disturbed me? When I saw somebody in my comments say, she was a whole grown woman. At 19, mother effers, you serious? Some of us act like we don't have teenagers in our family, like some of our kids are not teenagers. She was a whole grown woman at 19. Some of you act like you don't remember what it was like to be 19. Some of us act like we have never gotten tricked. I've been tricked. This is what I'm saying. We do the young people a disservice. We do them a disservice when we don't speak up about what has happened to us, about the hard lessons that we have learned. We do them a disservice because we don't help them learn from our mistakes. Instead, we blame them. You made a mistake. You shouldn't have made that mistake. Absolving the grown-ass man Absolving the grown-ass man who preyed on that innocence, who preyed on that naivete. It was not by mistake. Listen to what Mia said. I put up a video last week. And the video I put up, I said, listen, this is a video of R. Kelly grooming girls. You know what? Too many of you get, oh, that's a group. Oh, that's Kelly Rowland's group. How long have you been thinking that just because you're inside a group, you can't get groomed? This is so frustrating. How long have you been thinking that because you're affiliated with somebody else that you can't get groomed? Listen, this is how it happens. They talk to you and they see where your mind is at. They ask you questions. Find out that, oh yeah. Then they mention, oh, their pain. You have something similar. How many of the girls that R. Kelly has victimized were also the victim of sexual assault before him? So that they were already primed. 40%. Listen to what it is that I'm saying. 40%. Listen. So there's a high chance that 4 out of 10 people that he told, 4 out of 10 girls, there's a high chance that and if they're attracted to a person like him, I can imagine that the number may even be higher. Let's just even say 50. Let's say 50%. Half of the young ladies that he talks to is already going to already have been sexually assaulted or possess the characteristics that makes her more pliable and supple for the sexual assault. Listen to what it is that I'm saying. And then also being female, because you all know that I study evolutionary psychology. Girls are more apt to want to please. To not want to be seen like a bad person or difficult. And it's like listen, a normal adult, a child cannot compute on that level. Now, when you take a predator's mind, a person who has built up a repertoire, who has formed their sentences and who have created the way to, like I said, numbers game. They try this, try that. This doesn't work. This doesn't. You think when that girl went to R. Kelly's hotel room and he asked her to disrobe, you think he said, "Oh, take off your clothes so that I could jump on you and push you down on the bed"? No. He probably said something like what many of us have heard. "Oh, come on, I'm not going to try anything. What is this? What are you talking about?" Maybe he said, "You know what? I want to see what you may look like in a bikini, so that I know whether or not you have the type of body that is going to be able to make it as in this realm." You think, listen to it. It's like a predator's mind does not work the way our minds work. They're different. They're already primed for the predation. I know that's not a word, but let's go forward anyway. They're already primed for it. They practiced it. They know how to groom. They drop those jewels and those gems. You all, like I said, I am a certified clinical hypnotherapist. I know how to hypnotize people. And in order to hypnotize people, you have to understand people and you have to understand the subconscious mind. You have to understand how people work and how they operate. You all know those stage shows where they call people up on the stage and the people, they bark like a dog, they forget their name and all this other stuff. When the hypnotist is on the stage looking out, he can see the people who are more primed for it. So when R. Kelly's inside that room grooming girls, he can look and he can see who's primed for the foolishness. And you know what? Listen, oh, God. You know what? You know what? What comes to mind for me? I was grown at the time. I was interested in buying a large amount of shea butter, right? From a black man, older black dude. He's like 70, right? He was in town visiting. He just happened to be in New York. Listen, I'm grown. I'm going to tell you what happened to me, right? He was in town visiting because he was on here for some conference or something. So he was at this expensive hotel in New York City. He said, you know, come here, let's have a meeting down in the bar. So I'm already thinking, God, hotel meeting. He's like, we're going to have lunch down in the bar or whatnot. Okay, so we went and we had lunch, right? Then he's like, he's going to go out, or he had something with some reason that he needed to go up to his room for something, right? So then he was like, and this was after the brunch was over. I'm saying this was early in the morning. This wasn't at night. I had not been drinking or any of that, right? So he's like, oh, I need to go upstairs and grab something, because we were on our way. This is what it was. We were going to go to a different lounge because the lunch service had ended. So we were going to go to the lounge on the top floor at the hotel. He's like, oh, I need to run to my room for something. He's like, you can stay in the hallway. That's fine, right? Then we get to the floor, and he's like, you know what? My neighbors, they're going to see you standing out here in the hallway. You know what? You can just come into the room for a moment. Listen, I'm grown. And I'm like, I'm not down with that. And he's like, this is a professional business meeting. He's like, I'm almost offended. Right? So I'm standing out there, and he's like, you're gonna come, or you're gonna stand out here, right? And he was like, I promise you, nothing is good. I just need to go in there and grab it. If you feel you could just leave, whatever, right? So I'm like, okay, fine. I go into the man hotel room. We're talking about shea butter and this stuff. The mother, I almost used profanity on this video. The mofo stepped up on me in the damn hotel room. I'm grown. And I'm like, I'm like, come on. Come on. And I wanted to buy a large amount of shea butter. I wanted to get the bulk price and all of that, right? But I'm like, come on, man. I was like, you know what? You done said, and I left. And he was like, no, I'm sorry. You know what? I don't know what came over. Really, mother? I left. I lost, I would say, the majority amount of respect that I had reserved for this human being. I completely lost. I lost it. I just, you said you wasn't going to do something. Then because I was more comfortable just standing out in the hallway. And still, so I just, you know what? I left. I can't imagine what it would be like if I was 19 years old and this person had something that I felt that I could not get anywhere else. And I can't even imagine if I was attracted to that person too. And I felt like this was my only shot. Who knows what Kelly said to this young lady? I want to see whether or not you're in shape. I want to see whether or not you have tattoos. I want to see. Come on, I'm not going to try. What do you think this is? Then she's like, okay. And he's like, okay, let me see. Turn. And then next thing you know, he jumped upon the girl. Who knows what happened? Who knows? Maybe he was like, look, if you're not going to do it, listen, I have other meetings. Just go. Especially when you're talking about a person who spent half of their life hoping and wishing and praying to accomplish this dream, and they are 20 seconds away from it. And you know what it's like? I have to ask myself, me, who it is that I am right now, that if there was somebody who was like, you know what, Tonya, if there was, let's say there was some Nigerian executive, and he was like, you know what, Tonya, you would like to get this show, wouldn't you? I can get you on the airwaves here in Nigeria, get you the production studio, this, that, and the other. And he's like, well, all you got to do is X, Y, Z, right? Or maybe he doesn't even say it out like that. You know what I'm saying? Maybe he just implies it. And he's like, all you got to do is X, Y, Z. And I'm attracted to him too? I don't know. I don't know. I don't listen. Me as an adult, I don't know what I would do. I don't know. Because, listen, after that Jussie Smollett situation, 2 a.m. in the morning, I've been going back and forth to Subways, walking around with my 12-inch just waiting for some big buff Nigerian men to be like, hey, TKO. Be like, I don't answer the TKO. laughing matter. This is not a laughing matter. It's not a laughing matter. But I'm saying. And then you know what? The worst part about it. The worst part about it. The worst part about it is that we get caught up in these vortices. I hope that's the plural of vortex. We get caught up in these vortices where ego takes over. Many of us, even us adults, all of us, young and old, we get caught up in such a way that we try to prove our dissenters wrong. So that let's say there's somebody that your parents don't like, that your friends don't like, but you've liked them. You just have this drawing to them and they've been acting crazy or stupid or whatever. We get caught up in this vortex where we're like, I'm going to prove my family wrong. And the more crazy this person acts or the more whatever, the more you're drawn in because you're like, this is not following my agenda. I know I couldn't have been wrong. So you get caught up trying to prove yourself right. Who knows why Azriel and Joycelyn are still with this person? Who knows whether or not he's transferred an STD to them and they're like, well, nobody else is going to like us now. Or maybe they're like, look, I've been riding for this guy. So this has got to pan out. I remember I was caught up in a relationship where the more I got entangled into this, the more I tried, the more foolish the situation became. And I was like, I couldn't let it go. I was like, you know what? I had to prove everybody wrong. And now the whole world is like, oh, look at Kels. He's a known pedophile. How many of us really, truly quote unquote knew? I think black people are being very disingenuous when they're like, oh, he's a known pedophile. You introduce your child to a known pedophile. It wasn't up until the documentary came out that most of us even knew that the marriage to Aaliyah was real. Many of us thought it was some sort of some hoax or something, or some false documents or paper or whatever. So many of us were on the fence, unaware, unsure up until the documentary. But now all of a sudden everybody knew he was a known pedophile. I realized this last night when I was listening to Tavis Smiley. Tavis Smiley had this predator on his show. He was talking to R. Kelly, attempting to humanize him. And I'm like, Tavis Smiley is sitting here. And at the time that was filmed, Tavis did not know for sure that man was a predator. I mean, he said it wasn't him in the tape. The girl never came forward, said it wasn't her and all this other stuff. And he was off. So 4 years ago, you think the Savage parents and Azriel's parents, you think that they knew for sure that this man was a pedophile or that he was a hebephile or a predator. You think they knew for sure? They most likely felt like this was the person that was between their child and stardom or fame, that he had, speculations in the past, but none of it had been proven. And then the worst part is that we put the onus on the people who were victimized rather than the person who is doing the victimizing. So you know what? I'm going to end up this video on telling you a few stories about the ways that I have been tricked as a woman, right? So I personally have been tricked by the, oh, I'm not going to try anything. Oh, what's the matter with you? I just want to hold you. I just want to perform oral sex on you. I just love oral sex so much. I just want to perform it on you. I've been tricked by the, I sleep naked. Clothes are just too hot for me. It's too much. I sleep naked. I've been tricked by that. And I've also been tricked by and this was when I was in my 30s. I got tricked by this guy who was like, he came over to see me and he had some alcohol with him. It was like Hypnotic or Alizé and Hennessy and all this stuff. And I was like, first of all, I'm not drinking with somebody that I'm just really starting to get to know, right? And so he was like, okay, then I'm going to drink. And I was like, suit yourself. That was a mistake. because the more and more intoxicated this man became, the more and more aggressive he became. And I learned that day that if I ain't drinking, ain't no goddamn body drinking, because he was very aggressive. He was intoxicated. He wasn't in his right mind, and he was effing strong as hell. And I had to freaking fight this man off of me, because then he wasn't in his right mind, and he really wasn't. It didn't seem as if he was in full control of his full strength that he was enacting upon me. And I was like, you know what? This is ridiculous. It was just damn ridiculous. I learned that day that if I don't want to deal with an aggressive sober man, I definitely don't want to deal with an aggressive intoxicated man. That's a bad recipe. I had to actually end up throwing this Negro's clothes out the damn front door. His shoes, his shirt, his all of that. Because of course the man began to disrobe. I had to eventually just take his stuff and throw it out. And it's like, you know what, with you being a woman smaller, because women are an average 33% smaller, and even at the same size as a man, you're still 33% weaker. I had to eventually just take his stuff and put it in the damn hallway. I learned that day. But you know what? It's like, and so from all of these situations, I learned different lessons. The person, oh, I just sleep naked. Okay, if you just sleep naked, then I'm sleeping someplace else. I'm not down with this foolishness that you bring in here. And it takes experience. Life is experiential. We learn these things through them happening, especially as women with we are predisposed to wanting to please, to not wanting to seem difficult, to not going against the grain. We're predisposed to this. And so it takes going through the circumstances, it takes going through these lessons to learn it firsthand yourself. And that is a part of the reason that men like, or some men, or some predatory men like women who are younger and younger. They come up with these excuses. Oh, older women don't look as good. Oh, they're not as fun. Oh, they're too hard. Oh, they got too much baggage. Yes, of course, because they know your foolishness and your games already. They already know. They done been through it before. Like now I will not... If I ain't drinking, you ain't drinking. And it's like, there's so many of us, listen, and then I'm going to say this, and then we're going to get out of the video. All right. There's so many of us who are like, oh, I wouldn't make that mistake. Oh, I wouldn't this. Oh, that, I wouldn't that. That's because you don't allow yourself to make mistakes. You know, we talk about how a 19-year-old, the grown-ass woman at night. No. I remember when I was 25, I had the feeling of naivete. And I remember when I was online dating, I would make my age older because I didn't like the way that the men were coming at me when I was in my 20s. I would say that I was 30, 35. They'd be like, oh, you look good for your age. You're damn right I do. I'm in my 20s. But I liked the way they approached me thinking I was a 30-year-old woman. I liked the way they approached me thinking I was a 35-year-old woman. The way that they approached me and listen, and you see how I look right now today? This is exactly, I've waited all my life to look just like this. To have the wisdom, the experience, the knowledge, and not have the youthfulness, the naivety popping all out of me. So that people can look at me and they know, say, I'm a grown-ass woman. I am a grown-ass woman. And far too many of us black people, we do a disservice to our children. Because we think, oh, 18, you on your own, bro. You still need nurturing. At 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 20, all the way up until 27, your mind doesn't even fully develop until 25. And for some people, it staggers up until 27. And then listen, not only that, what type of life has this person lived? Has this person lived a sheltered life? Chronological earth numbers alone does not depict whether or not a person is of the mental aptitude to be able to navigate through every single situation. And in speaking of that, I remember when I was robbed in Buenos Aires. And I did that video letting other people know to look out for this scam. There were people who came out, Tonya, you should have known better. Tonya, listen to Tonya. Oh, how you got tricked like that? And I'm like, listen, it's impossible for the lay person to be able to have the mind of a career criminal. It's impossible. So many tricks and scams and schemes and different ways to get people removed from their clothing and removed from their belongings. So many different ways. It's like you as a lay person, you cannot combat the criminal mind. The most that you can do is try to educate yourself and other people and stay educated and vigilant. But there will still be people, like I said, it's a numbers game. They will keep trying different things. They will keep trying, working, scamming, navigating until they find just the right words to say, just the right way. The way I was robbed in Buenos Aires, they had an old lady, a woman, all of women, and you know how nurturing women are. There was this old woman who was patting and trying to wipe the stuff off of me. So they squirt. So somebody somewhere above, wherever, I don't know, squirted this really smelly stuff onto my backpack. And the old lady was like, oh, take this off, take this off. Oh, but you know, I'm from the Bronx. I don't like people touching me anyway. So they got one of my bags, but it was a bag that I had like food and stuff in, but they really wanted my knapsack where I had like my stuff in. But it was by the grace of goodness that I did. If I was from the Midwest and this old lady, or if I was even from a trusting area and this old lady was trying, I would never have thought that an old lady would rob me. I wasn't robbed by the old lady. They actually had a big, strong man come and take my bag while they were over there patting and doing all this other stuff. It was about 3 women. One of them, like really old, like sweet old lady, patting. And I'm like, listen. So I came out to educate people, and here come people. Oh, you should have known better. That would have never happened. And we don't give ourselves the opportunity to help other people learn from our mistakes, or to forgive ourselves for the mistakes that we have made, the quote unquote mistakes, but they were really learning experiences. We don't give and you know what? I need to say this, right? And then I'm going to get back into that point. There are people, so like those people who, they just wanted to get my bag removed from me. And there are people who they just want, they need to be able to gain easier access to being able to victimize you. So like the person, oh, I just want to perform, I love oral sex so much, I just want to perform oral sex on you. At that point, you're disrobed, you're in a compromised position, you're less able to fight a person off, and they have less barriers between them and the rape, the enacting, whatever it is that they want to do to you, they have less barriers between that. You're disrobed at this point. So who knows what happened to Joycelyn in that hotel room once she became disrobed for whatever reason. I don't expect a sheltered 19-year-old to be able to navigate mentally the way a predatory 48-year-old does. I don't expect that. And the fact that there's so many of us adults out here who are pretending as if a 19-year-old can. It's ridiculous. So the point that I wanted to get back to is that there are far too many of us who are like, oh, I wouldn't make that sort of mistake. And part of the reason that you quote unquote don't make mistakes is because you don't try anything. You know, sometimes things will turn out effed up, but sometimes things will be amazing. But if you don't allow yourself to even try, of course, you won't make any mistakes, but you won't be able to get onto the other side of that investment.